and ever. Amen. Psalm 28:7. The Lord is my strength. 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 The Lord is my strength.
Right. So I can't find the feed. I'll find it somewhere else. The news has begun in England. Seems they keep hacking my laptop. Right. Mainstream news. I'll get that for. UK petrol shortages. Some BP and ESCO stations. Let's have a look at this. A number of petrol stations owned by BP and ESCO has been forced out of operation by a lack of fuel deliveries as a result of nationwide driver shortages, it claims. BP has said it is reducing petrol and diesel deliveries to its own forecourts due to the shortage of drivers. Down the street urged people to buy fuel as normal, despite the closures of some forecourts. A spokesman for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the Department of Transport have made it quicker for HGV drivers to gain their licences. I've read that document, by the way, and they're cutting corners, allegedly. Key points. Shortages situation very bad, says BP head of retail. London and South East particularly hit by supply delays. Warning against panic buying of petrol and diesel. HGV driver shortage roughly worsening. Forecourt firm CEO Chris could go on for more than a month. A forecourt business owner has said that he expects the sector to get back to normal in about 6 weeks' time. This Gerald Ronson owns 275 forecourts operating under brands such as BP, Shell, and PepsiCo. The Telegraph newspaper, it's not just a BP issue, it is an industry issue. They need to resolve the problem. It is going to take most probably 6 weeks for everything to get back to normality. It's going to be this inconvenience of sites that will help the fuel. Petrol stations have less fuel in stock as a result of lifting of lockdown restrictions. Before the logistic crisis, Robson said, he told the newspaper, with everybody coming back to work, More cars on the road because people don't want to use buses or trains. This has drained out a lot of the fuel. Next claim. At the moment, those stations with you have got 3 or 4 days of stock. You could normally have 10 to 14 days. Some drivers filling cans despite plea not to panic buy, as well as long queues. Drivers in some areas are filling spare cans of fuel, including at this Tesco petrol station that's up Liverpool. There's a Twitter feed about that. Long petrol station queues reported on social media. Social media users reporting on queues at fuel pumps. It comes after the government warned the public, as in England, not to panic buy, urging motorists to buy fuel as normal. Massive queues at petrol stations for people now panic buying fuel have questions. The main one is why can't you be part of a solution than part rather than part of the problem? 23rd September 2021 tweets. The queue of petrol in that particular area drove to south east London this morning, stopped for petrol and 3 places. 2 had yet out of pump cars on them all. The third only had 2 pumps open and massive queues, and is no longer selling diesel. I overheard attendants say, and that was in another Twitter feed. Here we go again. The long main road blocked due to panic buying queue at Tesco petrol station. Just had difficulty getting into Tesco car park because of the chaos of the pump. Craziness of shortages is well underway. Good job we can't queue for domestic gas connection. En route to work this evening, quite a queue at the petrol station actually lifted the collection and filled up completely, as it's my youngest wedding this weekend. Yeah, it's going to mess up a lot of people this. Ministers asleep at the world over shortages, says an MP. Labour MP in England, Neil Card, warned that the economy is in for a very rough ride with it like here we go again from the Great Depression years. Amid of the number of logistics and energy crisis is all by design. This energy companies closing, petrol stations made to open, food unable to reach shops, price rising, government asleep at the wheel, having dozens off when warnings were being sounded. Our economy is in a very rough ride. Government should drop everything to sort out the logistic crisis. Should be dropped everything to be fixing the supply chain crisis. Shadowing international trade minister quotes, food, drink, energy, now petrol. Prices going up, shortages, firms going bust. Ministers need to drop everything to sort out the supply chain. This is happening on their watch. And after 10 years in power, it didn't even get to look like it. HGV driver shortage must be worsening. Labour's calling the government to invest into the training of jobs to fix the problem long term. But the shadow transport secretary claims it's roughly worse than crisis, and yet Conservative government failed to heed the warning for a decade, never investing in the valued working class jobs. So our cars meant to fly. Perhaps the future is that way, you know. So yeah, it just got warnings about not panic buying. A spokesman for the trade body, the District UK, the driver shortage is very serious and that needs urgent intervention. Action to resolve, we urge people not to panic buy. The logistic industry is resilient and is proving capable of supporting shop families. I bet they get the military in soon. I won't be too surprised to sort out the logistics of all this. Businesses during the for the past 2 years closures, first stage of Brexit and will continue to serve the needs of nations. But it goes on about London and South East particularly hit by supply delays. Right, so I wonder what people are talking about. The targeting, the setup. I wonder if there's any post about post era. I can't even find it. What search on there if I find it. Great Depression. The fuel that destroys Great Depression. It's a worldwide economic depression that lasted 10 years. The depression was caused by the stock market crash back in the 1929 and the Fed's reluctance to increase the money supply (GDP) during the Great Depression fell by half, limiting economic movement. A combination of the New Deal, World War II lifted the US out of depression. Unemployment rate of 25%. Then we have a look. 10 things your grandparents would use during depression. Let's have a look at this. Some of them are ignorant. Life can be tough nowadays, but most are lucky enough to have never had the true hard times. The type that our grandparents, great-grandparents felt during the years of Great Depression. But despite the hard life of back then, there was a will, and there was always a way scenario. Many people suffered extreme financial hardship during the Depression in the 1930s, and in turn led to some pretty extreme. The phrase "use it up, wear it out, and make do with do without" was populist during the era for a good reason. People had to get creative to make ends meet. One of the ways did was by saving and reusing and repurposing, I think it's said, absolutely everything. What we would think twice about tossing today was as good as gold back then. The most valuable items were well pretty much anything, but in general, the more use you could get from a single item, the more valuable it was. What did people reuse then? So here are just few of the many items we use: fabric, scraps, buttons, string, flour sacks, soap, kitchen scraps, soap, paper. We all go into all these in more detail below. Now, the life you could squeeze out of each item, the more money you would hopefully have to spend. The period in history stayed with people who were affected by it, and there's also said her great-grandmother lived through the Great Depression. She saved everything her entire life: plastic, aluminum foil, twist tires, jars, containers. She was even known for rationing her toilet paper. She kept the savings in paintings in the basement. Nobody trusted the banks after the crash in 1929, and threw the country into economic chaos. Understandably, many folks did have their money in the banks, however, but when the stock market crashed, they lost everything. This millionaires went broke overnight, and of course the poor got poorer. Without any money to spend on, people had to become very resourceful. Finding creative ways to reuse and repurpose everyday items become a life skill. That sometimes even meant the difference between life and death, and could even be exchanged as a currency in the trade and barter system that emerged when the money and all had ceased to exist for many people. So what exactly did people say, and how exactly did they repurpose the scrap that could no longer be used? The list is extensive. Old clothing, sheets and towels. Clothing was worn until it was down to the bare skirts. The same went for linens and towels. Then, if there was fabric that could be salvaged, it was repurposed into new clothes or linens or washcloths or rags. Rags were then used as if or they were patched together to make new clothes or linens, or turn into rag rugs. Socks are also safe and repaired. Everybody darned their own socks back then, which is difficult to say because most socks are made out of sympathetic material and don't hold a stitch. Flour bags and grain sacks were also very versatile during the Depression. Made of cotton, and some even had nice prints and patterns on them, which made excellent fabric to make new clothes out of. The flour sack dress was popular in 1930s, but the fabric was used to make everything from dresses, shirts, pants, linens, etc. Tires. The rubber from the tires was used in a variety of different ways. It could be used to patch soles on worn-out shoes. Scraps could be used in home garden beds. It could be used as construction material in Hobberville, shanty towns, and people lived in their homes. They were called Hobbervilles. Who was in power at the time and the rancid shelters. Ties were also used as fuel and burned to keep warm, despite the increasing hazard of black smoke that emerged from the burning rubber. Jars and containers. Wooden homesteaders joked about the amount of mason jars kept on their shelves and basements, and generally in the nook and cranny of the house. I know I can personally say that we reuse mason jars for every conceivable purpose around our house, so no surprise the glass jars and tins and containers, all sorts, were never thrown out, disregarded during depression. Jars could be used to store food, collect kitchen grease, or hold any number of household items from buttons to rubber bands. Tins could be canned, would often reproduce as lunch boxes for children, and lucky men who still had jobs about would merge wages there and there out saving trying to find one. Soap and candles. Everything was used for relief, last drop. That included things like soap and candles, odd ends saved from bar soap, wax candles, collected, remelted to make new candles, and new soap. Every last drop of liquid soap was used up, diluted with water to last longer. This was an effective way to stretch a buck and popular string elastic bands. Every piece of elastic band saved buttons, craving handmade buttons made while I've been gold coins. Every extra button was saved and used to mend old clothing. Missing buttons to add newly sewn items. Paper magazines. Every scrap of paper produced saved during the depression. Cardboard, magazines, stacks of newspapers, even used to help building materials to prop up shanty towns. The author says her mother had told me stories that a great-grandmother told her, using magazines and newsprint as toilet paper in the old outhouse during those times. Perhaps this explains the toilet paper rationing later in life. Paper bags also say scraps were used as writing paper, and pencil wrapping paper were even turned into little hand notebooks. Could be gifts to children at Christmas. The story I read was of a woman whose mother saved magazines and paper scraps and made of paper mache, which she then used to make picture frames. Talk about resourcefulness. If nothing else, papers always be burnt for fuel to start fires, which was much better often than tires. Kitchen scraps. Of all places in the house, kitchen was the last place that saw anything go twice. Everything was reused. Every eggshell, kitchen bones, stale bread jar, lard, grease was put to good use in some way. Parts of the animals that we normally would use or eat nowadays we put to good use. Kitchen feet were turned into soup. and it goes into more water. Water is also a commodity, probably the most important one of all. Many people didn't have access to it during the Great Depression in cities. People couldn't afford to pay their water bills, which meant no water was cut off, or worse, they couldn't afford to keep their homes, so they ended up in shantytown without water. But water was never more scarce than it was for people in the drought-ridden, dusty areas of the USA, where all the wells had dried up. Any water that could be rescued was. Multiple people bathed in the same water and then cleaned their clothes and dishes in it too. The old saying, "Don't throw the baby out with bathwater," which had been definitely applied during that time. What can you learn from the Great Depression to date? We live in a throwaway society. We produce more waste and waste more money. We often don't have enough to begin with. So, just hang on to anything that comes through your door. In fact, I hate hanging into anything I don't use. Clutter is a huge source of anxiety. Yeah, so modern day homesteaders, the greatest survive for most people. Use the art, wear it out, or don't wear it out. Stretch your food budget. Built in the Great Depression, they are panic-driven. Oh, that's interesting. Have a happy still. Always do it to me. Yeah. So it's not just the fuel, it's a lot more in it. Take over play. It's we start with one thing, and we start with another. Oh, I have to listen in the background to alternative platforms to see what they're saying. Oh, they're blocking all communications. I give up with the bloody laptop. It's already done. Alright, I do all the BS that's come this way again. Getting late for me. I know what I'm gonna do. Laying me. My body in the So no one's in the chat again, as per usual. So I would go and yeah. I've been that, didn't you? You can't even type in this thing. It's meant to be educateyourself.org. Can't even read it. www.educate I'm typing .org. Thank you. Whoops, wrong spelling. Got it. Educate yourself. Right. I wonder if the red. Oh, since Wi-Fi's on, make me tired. Oh, my head is bursting. The frequencies are really strong. So, where the world is going, they're targeting the older people, some that are not part of the occult, but some disabled people. It's like they pick and choose which ones they're going to pick off and target and label and set them up. People on different social platforms, oh my goodness me, are really spiritually waking up, which is impressive. And then on these England, i.e. public funded companies, these individual agents, when I try to get my records, 2019 now, to make sure there's correct data held about me, well, they made a major issue. Certain individuals have blocked my access to my own data. If anything, actually, it's no matter what it is on this physical domain, to correct incorrect data. There's a falsified report to target individuals anyway. It's always made up with falsifications and made look to be credible and spread around. Keep an eye on that individual in your community watch. remember that reminds me of the war years. Wasn't that a German thing? Put on your neighbour, stitch on your local neighbours. Psychological tactics as well. Right. There's also on an alternative social media. As an individual works in the funeral industry, and he runs a company, and it's well known now. It's all over alternative social media about certain things that's been going on, especially of my location, my area, two families. But when I'm aware of how the system works, certain individuals knew back in 2019 what was coming. So in my situation, they deliberately offered me a certain place. It wasn't in my best interest, and it wasn't my consent. So I still stuck to what originally was negotiating in end of 2017 and 2019. A hotel so people can get and do the repairs for my wedding. But they rejected all that. I suggested, well, I'll go have a break up north, hotel with care on site sort of thing. And the terms, conditions, and how and what company agent will come and do the repairs, etc. And that offer got rejected. Everything has. So it's not me. So what they're doing, they're building up a profile again. And they're using the assumption presumption again. Because they know what's around the corner. They know somebody's got a post out on the website. About a certain drug being used on the elderly and disabled in these places of primary care funded placements per bed in known as private care. And they were sedating them, these people, and then putting certain words on their medical notes which don't even be there. Certain terminology I want them to be there. And unless people, well, they are actually alternative platforms that actually do liability documents, etc., offer certain offers. But when they deliberately have been planning to use my home as false assumptions and not the perpetrators, but number 7, not quite a few of them around here. Because there's housing company agents in the UK are the rent per flat is being paid for by a local other public servant. It's not done legit. So when I check my survival, a couple of my survival items I've got, I noticed that's been damaged deliberately. It wasn't that dear, but the point is my private bloody home. Picking the lock to get in. They sold that to the demonic side of life who's doing all this, But it's not just me there. How many people are going to be made homeless again? Unless you're in with a club connection, I found out when a certain neighbour, he got his mum up specifically to the area, and she didn't need to be in a care home. loads of things I found out about what it did. And then within her moving into that place, within a matter of like 2-3 months, she passed away. That's aborted, and left all her estate financially to the perpetrator, you know where, and right opposite me. And he used that to suck up to all those that he thought is connected. So he got into the lodges, masonry lodges, fraternity. And he was flaunting around to get a new flooring company put into his floor. He didn't need it. His flooring was perfectly fine. That was just a psychological tactic, that was. Years ago, as a lorry driver, before I moved here, and things I knew about other subjects as well, the monetary system, in a nutshell, was always being about control. So, it's not the notice in the chat because they're blocking all my communication. Yeah, I'm making time. Frequencies are really strong, so you've got the strange skies, you've got the red skies, you've got the frequencies really strong. They see the effect of the sun, and then you've got all this negativity going on. It is a summer full moon. I don't think there's a full moon tonight, but it's where the summer, the autumn really sort of officially began yesterday. I don't know whether it's a history, whether Druids or the witches of the occultists do rituals a period of time. Who knows? Anyway, I'm signing out.